then once people engage with whatever advertisement you have to sell them. So advertising is the first skill, selling them is the second skill. And
Makes
then
sense.
product would be the third skill, which is the thing that you're ultimately advertising and selling.
Okay, so that gets us 6 figures. What gets us 7?
Doing the same thing consistently. So usually once people do it in the beginning, they're sporadic, they're not consistent with it. Just the act of doing the same thing every day usually gets people to 100,000 a month, which sounds crazy to probably people listening, but most people who think that's crazy also haven't done it consistently for an extended period of time. And so I use something that I call the rule of 100, which is 100 primary actions, whether that's 100 minutes of content creation per day, 100 reach outs per day, $100 of ad spend per day. Like you have to pick one of them, but 100 per day, and you do that for 100 days, and I promise you you'll be making 6 figures if you do that. I honestly didn't even process the reality of my situation, because the more I thought about it, like the sadder, more hopeless I would feel. And so I focused on the few things that were under my control, which is like, I can do these things. And so when I talk about advertising, when I talk about selling, I talk about those things boiled down to the actual actions, because I had to think of it in that way, because it was the only way that it wasn't overwhelming. I feel like 2 parts of the audience that like follow my stuff. I've got the business owners who are trying to scale their business, et cetera. And then I've got all the people who want to start a business. And usually they're a little bit younger and whatnot. And they just learn. And I think that they think that exposure to information is learning. And I don't think that's true, or at least it hasn't been for me.
It's definitely not true.
So, because I'm sure you get asked all the time, like, what are the books that, transform your life? And I've had a handful of books that have been useful to me, but I would say 99% of the things that I've learned through doing. And so when I do the original rule of 100 and whatnot, it's because I think it's the most effective way to learn, which is you force yourself on the one controllable that you have, which is the activities that you can take. And then it goes with the underlying assumption that you go off feedback and you're like, well, that opening message did not work.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think most people have a dramatic underestimation of how much volume it takes to be successful, independent of the thing, right? They're like, okay, I should go on 5 dates and then find the girl I'm going to marry. It's like, what if it was 500 to find the right girl you're going to marry? Or I want to, start this new channel, or I want to become an influencer, whatever it is, and they start doing, 1 post a day for 4 weeks, and they're like, why am I not famous yet? And they find, real,
So
right?
true.
And they find out that we ended up doing 400 episodes before we made it to the top 10 on the podcast thing. And now we start doing, 100 plus pieces of content a week. And it's just this volume game that you get the skill from the volume, the feedback from the volume. But you learn so much between that first rep and your 10,000th rep of squats. And so I think for most people, it's like, my goal, like with the learning, is like, if I can just decrease the action threshold for people to begin and be okay with the fact that they're going to suck, and it is okay to suck. You should expect to suck. And it would be unreasonable for you to be good if you haven't done it before. And so it's like, are you asking the universe to be unreasonable for you by expecting to be good on your first try? And I think that's where a lot of people, it's the expectation that destroys their ability to be successful, because they expect to win on the first shot, and no one does. If I'm going to take military strategy from someone, I'd rather have a general that has a winning record, even if the other guy, Napoleon, said, I'd rather have lucky generals. So even if he had 2 that were even, he'd rather have the lucky one. And so to the same degree, I think people use that filter because it actually takes less effort to learn from someone that you trust. And so it's like, if you've got the basement teacher that's telling you to dollar cost average into the S&P, and you've got Warren Buffett who's telling people to dollar cost average in the S&P, they don't want to listen to the teacher, even if the teacher is better objectively from a constant standpoint, because they just don't know if they should trust them. So you have to have 2 filters. I'm hearing the thing, should I trust the thing? With Warren, you can just plug into whatever he's saying and just take it as truth, which takes less effort. And so I think most people don't get that point. And so I think you should make content, but you should advertise the stuff that you sell, let people know about what you're doing. But it should be about the true expertise that you have, which is oftentimes just talking about the stuff you're doing, rather than saying, you should be doing this. This is what I am doing. Hope you find it interesting. Hope you find it valuable. And I think that's a big dynamic, which versus like how to, it's how I, just that little shift. And I think a lot of people would get much bigger, better audiences and actually make more money from the content that they're making, because everyone else is like, why should I listen to you?
Yeah.
Because they were trying to find habits of highly successful people. And when they actually pulled apart, it's not, and I hope I'm not contradicting anything. But there's people who are really rich who wake up really late and work really late. And there's people really rich who wake up really, really early. And there's people who are really rich who eat really healthy. And there's people really rich who drink Coca-Cola and eat French fries every day. And so there's all these things that we want to make as truths, but there's easy examples that counter those things. So it's like, what are the few things that are true, or at least that seem to be present in all of the situations? And it seems as though there were surprisingly few. And so the three common traits that they had found were, one, that people have a superiority complex. They believe they're better than others, and they believe that they deserve more than everyone else does, and that they can accomplish big goals, right? So they have a bigger vision because they believe they deserve it, or whatever it is. That they were able to identify that. The second thing that they were able to identify is that they had crippling insecurity, and which is a paradox of paradoxes. They feel they'll never be enough, and they'll always be measured against the things that they've achieved. And so you've got this crazy dynamic between they think they're better than everyone, they think they deserve more, they want to go after this big hill, and at the same time, they fear they'll never be good enough, and they'll never actually achieve it, and they actually suck. And then the third piece, which kind of adds the beautiful like mix of this, is impulse control. Yeah. And so they're able to control their actions and focus on a single thing for an extended period of time. And so if you put those three things together, it's like you've got a big goal that's pulling you this way, you've got this big fear that you are running away from, and then you've got impulse control to keep you focused on the one thing that matters.
Yes.
And if you do that, if you are the type of person who has those traits, then you are very likely to be successful.